Kuro no Kiseki is the 11th installment in the Kiseki or Trail series and features an entirely overhauled combat system which I find to be extremely fun. However, it can also be a bit confusing to understand everything, especially to English players, so I wanted to make this guide as a way to help out and explain exactly how the system works and show some examples of how I used it when playing. I played on Nightmare, so I have a decent understanding, I think, and I will try my best to cover everything. This video should be spoiler-free, and considering how niche this series is, I only expect like 50 people to actually watch and get anything useful out of this, but I wanted to make this anyway as I really enjoyed the combat of the game, and think it will be useful as the game is only really available in Japanese at this point with an overlay program that uses a spreadsheet as a translation. If you're a Xenoblade fan that clicked on this video wondering what the heck I'm doing, make sure to play Trails, you will enjoy it, trust me. Since I don't plan to make too much Kiseki content, I won't tell you to subscribe to me this time, but if you're feeling kind, I won't stop you. Let's get into it. So Kuro no Kiseki has a hybrid combat system that features a very simple action combat system and an interesting and complex turn-based system with a lot of customization. Since the action combat is very simple, we'll go through that quickly first before explaining everything else. Essentially, there are 4 things you can do during action combat. You can attack with the circle button, you can roll or dodge with the X button, you can use a special attack or stun attack after charging it up with the R2 button, and you can enter turn-based mode with the square button. Boss fights do not use this system at all, and you do not have access to all of your strong crafts and techniques like turn-based mode. The purpose of this mode is simply to be an advanced stun system from previous games, or a way to kill weaker enemies and progress quickly without entering turn-based mode. After filling up an enemy's bar, they will be stunned, and if you press square to enter turn-based mode at this moment, you will get an advantage encounter and get a lot of turns before the enemy can even move. You only need to stun one enemy for this. You can also stun enemies during turn-based mode as well, and each attack increases their stun meter there, and if they get stunned, they'll be unable to move for a bit and cannot dodge attacks. The health also carries over to turn-based mode. This is a very useful feature and will probably be the main thing you'll want to go for in the overworld. Turn-based mode is very similar to the older Trail systems with a lot of new changes and customization options exclusive to this game, and I've definitely seen some confusion about how some of it works, so let's get into combat and setup. On a very basic level, you are given 4 resource bars during combat to keep track of in this game. The first is HP, which is how much health you have before dying. The second is EP, which works just like any other RPG, where you have arts that you can use, which deplete your EP, and when it runs out, you cannot use the arts anymore. The third meter is CP, or craft points. This meter refills during combat when you attack normally or with an art, or when you get attacked by an enemy, and caps out at 200 always. This lets you use special character exclusive abilities, including an S-Craft, which is their special move, for 100 CP. Those moves usually form much of the identity of a character in combat and are absolutely worth paying attention to. And the final resource you have in combat is a boost gauge you can see in the bottom left-hand corner. This is an entirely new feature that I'll go into a bit more detail later, but it refills by attacking and getting attacked by the enemy, or when you get a turn order bonus that refills it. The system works as a turn order system where the bar at the top of the screen shows you who will move next. The more speed a character has, or the less delay a move used has, the faster they'll be able to move again. More powerful moves typically have larger delays. Hold down L2 to see numerically when everyone moves. Sometimes during your turn you might get turn order bonuses that might replenish one of your resource meters, or give you guaranteed critical hits or something of that nature. You can also steal these bonuses from enemies if they have it by stunning them, and by doing this you can even stack the bonuses. There are a number of different things you can choose to do during your turn during combat. A basic attack is your weakest option typically, but does have extra perks in this game. During your turn, you're allowed to move around freely within a blue circle, and when you move close to an ally, there will be smaller blue circles overlapping. This is the link system. If you attack an enemy with a basic attack while being linked to an ally, they will also attack right afterward, adding additional damage. And this can be done with any ally on the field currently. You can also scroll down and defend, which I personally haven't used too much, but there are a couple situations where it can be good. If you press square, you get access to your arts. Offensive arts are on the first page, and if you press square again, you'll see your support arts. These all cost EP and have a casting time, so they won't come out until your next turn. The delay is a lot lower than normal turn usage here, so it isn't that bad, but it is worth considering before casting an art. If you are linked to an ally when using it, it'll get a power boost. Arts are also tied to certain elements, and enemies usually have elemental weaknesses, so you can deal additional damage if you target those. If you press triangle, you'll get access to your items, which usually heal EP, HP, status conditions, and so on. If you press R1, you get access to your crafts, which will consume a certain amount of CP when used. Although crafts that deal damage can also restore some of the CP back. The letter rating next to the craft is similar to a damage ratio, showing you how strong the move is. Arts will have these as well. Once again, if you are linked to an ally when using a craft, it will get a power boost. Some crafts in this game have positional effects that increases damage, so keeping track of where you are standing can also be very useful. And many crafts have additional effects like lowering stats or applying status debuffs to enemies. If you meet a positional bonus, it will show on the enemy before you attack. There are a couple of other things you can do during combat, but they will make a lot more sense after discussing all of the customization and setup options along with the stats. So let's handle that first. So first things first, if you pause the menu and press X, you will see the general status screen. Press X again and you can see the full stats on the right as well as change equipment. If you look at the parameters slot, let's go through that briefly. Strength affects total attack, which is the yellow sword value seen to the left, and likewise defense affects the total defense value, which is the shield. ATS and ADF are the same thing but for arts damage. Speed determines how much you can move during combat, and the more speed you have, the more turns you get. This is one of the best stats across the entire series because more turns is almost always better. Agility affects standard evasion rate and dexterity affects standard accuracy. Movement is how large the radius of your blue circle is during your turn during combat, and range is how large the attack range of your weapon is when using a basic attack. The four values underneath attack and arts to the left of this are additional accuracy rate that increases hit chance, critical hit chance, additional evasion chance, and magic evasion chance. These can usually be boosted by equipment setup. There isn't too much to say about main and sub-weapon or armor and shoes, typically just look for the strongest and best options and pay attention to more important stats. Now here's where it starts to get a bit difficult and where the language barrier becomes annoying. Now if you are playing this game, I highly recommend using the combat spreadsheet, which translates everything important you need for combat, including accessories and what they do, and also how to get the unique ones. I'll link that in the description below. Accessories have a variety of different effects and will affect different stats or make you immune to certain debuffs or conditions. I'm running what I consider to be a really strong setup overall, which involves both the Vaughn's accessories increasing his CP gain. The Gladiator headband increases gain CP by 30%, and the Samurai Spirit Belt increases CP by 15 with every action he takes, along with small boosts to defense and strength. This works really well with the customization options the game has and how Vaughn works. With that done, let's get into more complex and fun stuff. This game has an entirely new orbment and quartz system, and if you press square on the pause screen, you can see your quartz lines. This gives you the option to place 15 different quartz on your characters with the exception of Rosette, who has 16 because she's just that good. Expand lines with Sepith you gain during combat. Quartz will usually offer stat increases or offer special combat abilities and effects you cannot get elsewhere. All of these are translated on the combat spreadsheet as well. For example, my Vaughn has some strong stat increases across the board like strength, speed, and critical hit rate, along with some special powerful quartz such as Rusalka, which cuts S-Craft delay in half, Seketova, which increases CP generation by 5 times when getting damaged in combat, further increasing how much CP he gets, Hydrum, which increases the critical damage of my attacks by 100%, which is massive, and Talos, which increases damage to stun enemies by 50%. Some of these quartz slots are limited to only a quartz at the same time, but there are a few benefits of this. There are 7 different types of quartz total similar to the art, and they're all color-coded, which is the same as all previous games. In this game, you have 4 different quartz lines, and they actually do have an important effect on combat this time around, offering unique benefits depending on how you set up your quartz. Essentially, you have an attack line, a defense line, an arts line, and an EX or special line. Each quartz has a different numerical value assigned to it, which you can see at the bottom of the description for the quartz, and this also shows the total numeric value of all equipped quartz in the bottom right for all 4 lines. If you have a limited slot like Vaughn has for only time quartz here, the value of that quartz is doubled, which means I have 10 time and 6 earth from this quartz as opposed to only 5 and 3. Depending on the numeric value of your quartz, you will get access to shard skills. If you meet the correct values, you will have the ability to activate a shard skill during combat. While you're able to see these under the quartz line, if you press R1 twice, you will be able to see them a lot more clearly. All of the shard skills are once again translated in the combat spreadsheet below. The percentage below each shard skill is the activation percentage of the skill. Each different quartz line has access to different shard skills. The attack line shard skills are going to be more offensive in nature compared to the defense line skills. The skills my Vaughn has are a 25% chance to add small earth damage to attacks and crafts, a 25% chance to add small water damage, 25% chance to add small mirage damage, a 25% chance to add large fire damage, a 25% chance to add large time damage, a 20% chance to reduce the strength stat of an enemy when attacking, a 20% chance to reduce the defense stat of an enemy, and a 100% chance to use an additional attack to finish off an enemy if the enemy is low enough on HP after Vaughn attacks. This also works if Vaughn attacks from a link attack which you initiate with a different party member. In the defense line, I have some status resistances, a very useful skill that gives the ability to shield allies when they're attacked in combat, and a very strong ability that gives you a chance to counterattack when an ally is attacked during combat. And this counterattack applies all of your attack shard skills as well, giving it really strong synergy. For my arts or drive skills, I have basically nothing because Vaughn isn't really a caster. That's why the strong quartz I want on him but that don't really contribute super well to shard skills, I put on this line. Typically, the offensive line that you use the least is where you want to put the quartz that are less useful for shard skills like this, but have effects that you still want to have, like important stat boosts. The EX line has a variety of different effects in combat, and even outside of combat, such as the ability to see enemies and treasure chests on the map. There are also chances for stat boosts when starting combat, or recovery of resource meters after combat. Once again, all of these shard skills, their effects, and requirements are all in the combat spreadsheet linked below. So what about arts? Well, in this game, arts are completely separate from Quartz and Quartz setup this time around. Press R1 to see the arts screen. In this game, you have access to arts drivers that come with a predetermined set of arts. You get strong drivers as you go through the game that will have better arts selections. These drivers also come with a set amount of custom slots, which you may guess lets you set any art to them. These slots are unlocked with Sepith. In order to actually set an art to these custom slots, you must own the plugin, which you can buy at certain locations. That's about all there is to it this time around. You just need to have the arts plugin to be able to put it in a custom slot, and it has no effect on stats or anything like that. They are entirely separate and dependent on your arts driver. If you aren't planning to use many arts with a character, you might be able to just ignore these outside of a few support plugins. If you want to see the arts and effects, once again, that's on the combat spreadsheet. The last thing you can customize is your hollow core, which you can access by pressing triangle on the orbment screen. These function somewhat similar to Master Quartz from previous games, but with some notable differences. First of all, they modify arts damage and max EP as standard parameters, but no effect on physical damage by default. However, they have very strong effect if you use boost in combat. So boost is one of the features that have become back to because of this. Essentially, when it is your turn, if you press L1, you will boost for 2 turns and consume one of the 3 boost meters. If you press it again, you will be fully boosted, which will make boost last an additional turn and use another boost meter. If you look at the listings under S-Boost ability, this showcases all of the bonuses that you get while boosted, and these are very significant bonuses. For example, the Chaos Mare Hollow Core I currently have equipped on Vaughn here, which you unlock with Chaos Level 3 alignment, which I almost recommend rushing just because of how insane this one is, gives me 46% additional critical hit rate at level 4, putting me above 90% critical hit rate, which is absurd when combined with that 100% critical damage quartz I have. It gives a 42% boost to strength, which increases damage further. It gives a 22% boost to defense, a 16% boost to speed, some extra movement, and then 22% increased physical damage, which is another damage boost on top of everything else. It's absolutely insane, and with my current setup, Vaughn kinda just destroys everything. And considering Vaughn is the character with Grendel access and everything we've discussed affects Grendel too, that makes him extremely strong and worth keeping in boost almost all the time. Even outside of that, there are some great hollow cores that make it worth boosting characters just for the bonuses they provide. You only get these bonuses when you are boosted, so that's important to remember. All translated hollow cores and effects are once again on the combat spreadsheet in the description. That covers basically all of the customization options, so let's talk about boost more. Giving access to hollow core bonuses isn't the only thing that boosting does. If you look at the bottom of your screen during combat, you will see your shard skills. Boosting will increase the activation rate of the shard skills, and using 2 boosts will increase them further to 100%. This can be insane with the right shard skill setup as well, and using 2 boosts also makes it last for 3 whole turns, which is incredible. There is one more thing boosting does, and that's let you use your S-Craft, which is the 100 CP cost special move each character has. You have to be fully boosted to use these, which means using 2 meters of boost. However, every time you use an S-Craft in battle, the boost gauge increases by 1 meter as well, and it will cap out at 9 meters or bars, or whatever you want to call them. This gives you some advantages in longer fights with being able to boost more. S-Crafts are the only way to increase boost slots and only last till the end of the current battle. The very final thing is S-Breaking. If you hold down R2 at any point during combat, and have 100 CP as well as 2 boost meters charged, you can press the directional input of a character to use your S-Craft right after the current turn. It will automatically consume 2 boost slots to do this, but allows you to instantly move, which can be very valuable, and the boost will still last for 2 turns after that. If a character is already fully boosted, you can S-break with them with only the 100 CP requirement. Because of how this game works, you can even S-craft twice in a row since there's no 200 CP versions of S-crafts in this game. You can also reposition yourself before using an S-craft to get links or whatever else. Boosting can be really strong with the right shard skills, as I've already said, and increasing the activation rate of these skills will give you a ton of advantages in combat with the right setup, like constant strong counterattacks that apply stat debuffs, and the like. I'm a really big fan of all the options this game gives you, and think it's a very fun system that will only be refined in future games. If there's anything else I can say as far as advice, when using Grendel, boosting lets you use 3 attacks or crafts in a row, and this will often be stronger than just using an S-craft with the right order, so keep that in mind. Grendel is also extremely strong in general with the right bond setup, and that's why I think investing heavily in him is very valuable. All of the CP recovery and all the damage bonuses I have lets him spam S-crafts often to kill enemies or just destroy everything, and in Grendel form, you can do that even better. It's a lot of fun, even if it makes Nightmare Mode a bit more of a breeze than I might have liked. I think that's going to cover everything, and I hope I covered everything in enough detail, but if you do have questions, feel free to leave a question in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope I explained everything well, and I hope you learned something, and have a wonderful and blessed day.